Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel. Peter likes books. And today I'm doing a book tag, and I haven't done a book tag in quite some time, so I'm super excited about it. I tweeted out, I want to do a book tag. Any recommendations or something like that? And Rosie Freckle, who has the blog, Rosie Freckle Reads, and she linked me to a book tag that she did called Simply Shakespeare number 11, the Shakespeare book tag. So, I'm gonna do the Shakespeare book tag. And it was interesting because when I went into doing this, I was like, why did she tag me in this? I hate Shakespeare. I hated Shakespeare when I read it in high school. I hated Shakespeare when I read it in college. And I'm not gonna have any answers for this because I don't remember like two things that I read, like Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet. And other than that, I don't even remember what, maybe Taming the Shrew. So anyway, but this really wasn't about Shakespeare. And I actually have all of my answers written down, so I'm prepared today. So let's get into this, and I will link her tag below so you guys can go check out Rosie and see what she had to say about this. She said, this week I'm bringing you the Shakespeare book tag. I found this floating around on BookTube, and I thought it was perfect for Simply Shakespeare. Number 1, Much Ado About Nothing. Your favorite bickering couple, whom everyone knows really care about each other, can be romantic relationship or friendship. Now, I will tell you that most of the books that I picked are books that I've read in the last 6 months, because I like to do my I like to keep my book tags fresh, so I don't want to pull out books that I read 20 years ago. So for that one, I picked Millie and Callie from Puddin', because Puddin' by Julie Murphy, which I did a spoiler-free review on yesterday, has easily become my current favorite book. And I'm so in love with Millie and Callie in this book. So you gotta go check it out. I don't want to spoil it for you, but they bicker a lot, and it's endearing. Okay, number 2, Measure for Measure, a book whose plot or genre is really hard to explain to other people. So one day, my husband and I went out to brunch. It was like a Sunday, and I had just finished an audiobook the night before, and I was like trying to explain it to him, and it wasn't just the plot. It was literally like the last third of the book, and I was like, oh, it's too hard to explain. He was like, no, explain it to me. You're really excited about it. And so I tried to explain it to him, and it's so out there, but so fantastic that like it's really hard to explain. So I went back in, I was like, what was that book? So I went back in, and it is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, which is hands down one of the most fantastic mystery thrillers of this year. I think it came out actually in 2017, but go and listen to it on Audible. The Audible version is fantastic. Okay, number 3, A Midsummer Night's Dream, your favorite book featuring fairies or elves. Well, I don't read a lot of fantasy, so I don't have a lot, but I did read Year One by Nora Roberts, and you know, I make jokes in my videos about my dog Pee-Pee's favorite author being Nora Roberts and Debbie McComber. But when this book came out, my best friend and I were at Meyer, and it was like supposed to be this, she's gonna do a series. Nora Roberts, who writes romance novels, is doing a series of like apocalypse, I guess, apocalyptic dystopia, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like apocalyptic dystopian kind of novel about what happens to people that are survivors after this horrible thing happens in the world. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. Well, I ended up loving this book. And there's about everything that you can imagine in there. There's fairies and shapeshifters and all kinds of stuff. So if you enjoy that, but you also enjoy like a modern spin to it, I would definitely recommend it. And I've never really read anything. I think I've read one Nora Roberts book previous to that in my life, and it was nothing like that. It wasn't like a romance-driven novel. It was very well done, and the characters were well developed, and I was just super impressed with it. So I'm excited for the next one to come out. Okay, number 4, Hamlet. An underutilized female character. And I picked for that, oh, I'm gonna get some shit for this one. I picked Leah from Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. Now, I did not love this book. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't think it was horrible. I did a whole spoiler-free review. I mean, it was okay read. I got very, very bored reading it. I thought Adam versus the Adam. I was going to say Adam Silvera. I'm excited about the Adam Silvera, Becky Albertalli book. I thought Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda was fantastic. Last year, The Upside of Unrequited was hands down one of my favorite novels. You know, I think part of the problem for these authors is when they write a fantastic book, like they have to top it and top it and top it. And for me, that's what I saw happen with John Green with Turtles All the Way Down. It didn't meet my expectations. And neither did Leah on the Offbeat. The thing that I felt about it was that I thought Leah could have been such a fantastic character. I mean, there was so much you could have done with her other than make her kind of like this angsty, to be real honest, bitch at times. And I just was like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't love when you write characters that are main characters that aren't real lovable. Julie Murphy did it with Dumplin', with Willow Dean, but she softens around other people, and it kind of explains throughout the novel why she does come across as kind of harsh, you know? But like Leah was just kind of, I read the book and I thought to myself, I wouldn't want to be your friend, like honestly. And so I felt like Becky Albertalli didn't really utilize her the way that she could have. I mean, she had this fantastic character. I thought the idea of Leah was just absolutely fantastic, and yet she didn't use her the way that she could have used her. I mean, I don't know. And I know some people love this book, and so, hey, that's the great thing about BookTube is that we can all love what we want to love. But I was just really disappointed, and really in Leah as a character, because she could have been this over-the-top kind of extravagant character that at the same time was very afraid of herself, because I think that's who she was, but I just didn't get it from the book. Okay, the next question, number 5, the sonnets. Choose your favorite poem. And for that, I said, And Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. It's one of my all-time favorite poems of life, and my mom actually got me a really cool special edition of it. Number 6, Richard III, a protagonist willing to do anything to get what they want. And although I've already mentioned this book, I'm going to say Millie Michaelchek from Puddin', because she is hands down one of my newest favorite characters of life. And I don't want to ruin it for you, but like she is willing to go to any lengths to get what she wants. And except for when it comes to what she thinks is best for her. And that's what I kind of loved about it, is that she's willing to go to any lengths for other people, but when it comes to her, she's not. And there's a cathartic change that kind of happens throughout the book, and it's fantastic. So you gotta go read Puddin', go read it. But if you haven't read Dumplin' first, you need to read Dumplin' first, which is equally as good, because they're secondary characters from Dumplin'. Number 7, Anthony and Cleopatra, your favorite trope, bookish buzzword, historical figure, etc., for which you still haven't found that perfect book. Okay. Now, I put this on my Peter's Book Club book list that we're reading, and that is Endless Night by Richard Lehman. It's hands down probably the scariest novel I have ever read in my entire life. And honestly, almost everything that I've ever read by Richard Lehman is terrifying. But the word terrifying to me, or, you know, I don't know, like a book you can't put down because it's a horror novel, like that whole kind of bookish buzzwords, I don't find that a lot. Like whenever somebody says, you've got to read this book, like somebody said Joe Hill's Heart-Shaped Box was terrifying, I didn't find it terrifying at all. I found it to be extremely boring, honestly. And then I had read something by Richard Matheson, Hell House. I thought it was boring. I mean, it takes a lot to really terrify me. Helter Skelter is terrifying to me, and I'm right now reading I'll Be Gone in the Dark for the book club. If y'all don't know, I have a book club called Peter's Book Club, and we're reading I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and it's about the Golden State Killer. It is terrifying to me. Like, I'm driving around listening to it, and I almost kind of don't want to walk into the house, because I'm like, you know, but he was recently caught. I think it would be worse if he wasn't caught. Honestly, I do. So true crime kind of scares me, but whenever somebody, like, if you see it on the cover and it's like terrifying, won't be able to put down, won't be able to, you know, go out, I'm like never that impressed with it, you know? Okay, so the next question is number 8. Titus, a lesser-known work by a popular author, one which you want more people to read. And I said, last night I sang to the Monster by Benjamin Alire Signs. I know everybody in the world loves Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. I loved it. It's one of my all-time favorite books. But I've read a lot of his other books, and I think that he's really, really important because he discusses a lot of really deep issues in his other books as well. And one of the things that I love about him is that he, in depth, talks about the Chicano culture, which I think is important. And last night I sang to a Monster, to the Monster, is about this 18-year-old kid that's a heroin addict, and he's in a rehab, and he befriends his roommate, who's like this 50-year-old guy, and they become like really good friends. And let me just tell you, as somebody that worked in treatment, as somebody that like has been to treatment more than once. It is hands down the real deal. It is one of the most honest, true tellings of a rehab kind of setting, and it's a fiction book, and it's so fantastic. And the ending is kind of sad but real, but happy too. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. It's totally different than his other works. I also loved Sammy and Juliana in Hollywood, which is more about like Chicano gangs, but that is fantastic as well. And his books are all just so different and so good. And I think, like, here's the thing. I read this year, or last year, The Inexplicable Logic of My Life, and it felt to me like he was trying to do what he did in Aristotle and Dante, and I wasn't impressed. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't like it. And his other works were so powerful. I mean, I loved Aristotle and Dante, but honestly, I would rank Last Night I Sang to the Monster higher because it's more of an authentic voice, and it was just so genuine and so beautifully told. So go check that out. Okay. Let's see. The next question of the world. Number 9, King Lear, a complex female villain or anti-hero. Who did I say for this? Oh, I said Vera from My Sweet Audrina, which we just read in our book, the book club. I just, like, I kind of loved her as, like, this evil, like, villain type in a book. She was so good. Like, so good. And it's so consistent throughout the whole book that, I mean, I kind of love to hate her, if that makes sense, for a character. And I don't read a lot of, like I said, like, you know, superhero, fantasy kind of books. So I don't encounter a lot of villain types in the books that I read, unless they're like Mean Girls and contemporary young adult. But she was, I mean, she was a villainess. And if you've read it, I think the thing that I loved about her was, like, she was just purely nasty, but, like, you, over the course of the book, understood why she was that way. And I loved that character development. Okay, number 10. The Taming of the Shrew. Choose 2 polarizing books, one you loved and one you hated. And for that, I picked, for the book I loved from this year, The Woman in the Window. And it's hands down one of the best mystery thrillers I've read. Behind Your Eyes topped it, but it is still fantastic. Very much like Rear Window, if you loved Rear Window. And so The Woman in the Window, and the book that I hated was The Woman in Cabin 10, which I think everybody knows. That book was by Ruth Ware. I do not understand why that book has gotten the praise that it has gotten. I mean, first of all, there was no mystery. I saw it coming a mile away. I just thought it was stupid. I didn't enjoy it. I was so bored with it. And let me just tell you, when I bought it, because it was such a big deal, I bought 2 of her other books on, Audible. I've never listened to them. I still have them over there. Everybody has told me, I think you can return books on Audible, so I may look into that and see. But everybody is like, if you didn't like Woman in Cabin 10, you're going to hate the other 2. So I'm not even going there with her. I mean, you know, and I'm glad that some people loved it. Love what you love. And congratulations, Ruth, on your success. But for me, it was a fail. So anyway, and then number 11 is that you have to tag some people. But every time I tag people, they don't do it. So I'm just going to let anybody that wants to do this tag do it. But go check out Rosie first and her blog, and I will link it below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.